My dad gave my college funds to pay my sister's mortgage and said, "You'll thank me later." I just nodded and said, "Okay." An hour later, he went pale. When the bank reversed the transfer and my family showed up pounding on my door. Hey, Reddit. My family treated me like the built-in handyman while my sister got crowned queen of the universe. One day they crossed a line and I finally said nope, not happening. I rebuilt my life without them, but they didn't take the hint. Before I get into the chaos, here's how it all started. My name's Leon, I'm 27, and I work full-time as a welder, been doing it since trade school. Nothing fancy, just steady work that keeps the bills paid. I grew up as the one who fixed stuff around the house while everyone acted like that was my natural role. My parents, Raphael and Dana, always handled my younger sister Mira like she was made of glass. She's 23 now, still talks like the world owes her something. They treat her like a miracle and treat me like the guy who shows up to move furniture. So when Thanksgiving rolled around, I already knew the vibe before I even pulled into their driveway. I walked in, said hello, stayed polite, nothing extra. Nothing. My mom gave me this quick side hug like she was already annoyed. My dad barely looked up from the carving board. Mira was on the couch with some new jacket she made sure everyone noticed. She lifted her wrist when I walked by and said, "Julian got me this bracelet. Real silver. You can tell because it's heavy." She says stuff like that. Every visit, Raphael nodded at her, like she'd just achieved something incredible. "She deserves nice things," he said, loud enough so I'd hear it. They love those little digs I helped set the table because nobody else even pretended they would. As usual, nobody said thanks. They don't really thank me for anything, they just expect. Dinner itself was the same predictable routine. Mira talking about how adult life is so hard because her mortgage was unfair. Dana telling her she's strong and brave. Raphael saying she's doing better than most people her age. They didn't ask about my job. My mom just tossed a, "You still welding, right?" like she was confirming I still ate food. When we finally finished eating, I was ready to leave. Then Raphael said, "Sit, we need to talk." His tone didn't sound like a request, but I sat anyway just to see where it was going. He reached under the table and pulled out a manila folder. No explanation, no build-up. He just pushed it toward me like I was supposed to know already. "Open it," Dana said, arms crossed like she was waiting to scold me. I opened it. Took me 2 seconds to recognize the account name. My college fund, the one my grandfather set up for me. I never used it for university because I chose trade school. Instead, I'd been saving it for advanced certifications. Raphael cleared his throat. "We used it to help your sister with her mortgage." Dana jumped in right behind him. Mira and Julian were struggling. Their bank was being unreasonable. As a family, we had to step in. I looked at them without saying anything for a few seconds. Not because I was shocked, just because I was making sure I heard them right. "You used my fund?" I asked. Raphael sighed like I was being dramatic. "Don't start. It was sitting there for years. You weren't doing anything with it." Mira shrugged like it was obvious. My house was about to fall apart. "You don't understand the pressure I'm under." Pressure. I've been working real jobs since I was 17. But sure, Dana leaned forward. "Don't make this difficult, Leon. Your sister needed help. You should be proud we were able to support her." I tried asking how much they took. Every time I said a word, someone talked over me. Mira snapped that money isn't everything. Dana lectured me about family loyalty. Raphael said something about sacrifice like I was supposed to clap for them. It was nonstop noise, guilt, excuses, self-praise. None of them actually answered my questions. Finally, I closed the folder, slid it toward me, and said, "If you say so." They all froze for a second like they expected me to explode or beg for an explanation. But I didn't. I didn't yell, didn't argue. I just picked up the folder and stood. Dana frowned like I'd spit in her food. "You're leaving?" "Leon, don't be childish." "You should be thankful," Raphael added. "This was for the family." Mira tossed her napkin and said, "Seriously? You can't even be supportive for once?" I didn't respond. No point. They weren't interested in hearing me anyway. I walked to the door. Behind me, I could hear Dana muttering something about how I'd never appreciate anything, and Raphael saying, "He has no idea what we deal with." Mira added a loud, "ungrateful," just to make sure I heard one last insult. I didn't turn around. I stepped outside into the cold air, got in my truck, and drove off with the folder on the passenger seat. Just silence and a decision forming in the back of my mind. I was done letting them treat me like I didn't own my own life. And when I got home after Thanksgiving, I dropped my keys on the counter, put the manila folder down, and sat at the table. The house was quiet enough that the rustle of paper sounded loud when I opened it. I went through everything slowly. Dates, signatures, authorizations, The transfer record, the history logs, every line. It didn't take long to find what I already suspected: the fund was in my name only, and withdrawals required my signature. Not my dad's, not my mom's, definitely not Mira's. They didn't bypass a suggestion. They bypassed the law. That's when the anger hit. Not loud anger, not throwing things anger. It was the kind that sits in your chest like a heavy block, controlled, sharp, and ready to move. The kind that switches you from "this sucks" to "I'm fixing this right now." I grabbed my phone, looked up the bank's fraud hotline, and dialed. A woman answered with the usual script. I gave my name, account type, and told her straight, "There was an unauthorized transfer from my educational fund. I want to report it." She asked for the transaction details. I had the folder open, reading the numbers back without stuttering. She double-checked the account on her end. "I see the transfer," she said. "Did you authorize it?" "No," I said. "I didn't sign anything. No one else is legally allowed to move money from this account." Her tone shifted instantly, more serious. "All right, sir. This qualifies as unauthorized use. We can initiate a reversal. It usually takes less than an hour once the request is processed." "Start it," I said. She took down more information, had me confirm security questions, and said she'd email me a fraud affidavit to sign so they could investigate internally. She asked if I wanted to lock down the account temporarily, then explained what would happen next. I answered everything clearly. I thanked her, she wished me a good night, and the call ended. That's when my phone lit up. At first it was a call from my mom, then my dad, then Mira, then Julian, then Dana again, then Mira again, back to back. No break between them. I let every call go to voicemail. Then the messages started. "Mom, what did you do? Your father says the transfer is reversing. Fix it, Leon." "Dad, you better undo whatever you just did. This is for your sister." "Mira, are you serious right now? You're ruining everything. You're actually messed up for this." "Julian, grow up, man. Be a decent brother for once." "Dad, this is unbelievable. We raised you better." "Raised me better?" They couldn't even pretend to respect me long enough to ask before stealing 40 grand. I set the phone face down. Didn't bother reading the rest. I wasn't going to waste breath explaining basic boundaries to people who didn't think I deserved any. About 20 minutes later, the knocking started sharp. Repeated. Angry. They weren't subtle. "Leon, open this door right now." Raphael's voice carried through the wall. "You're making a mistake!" Dana yelled behind him. "Just fix it!" Mira added, sounding like someone denied a toy, not a grown adult dealing with real consequences. I sat on the couch, arms crossed, not moving. The knocking got louder. "Stop acting like a child," Raphael shouted. "You owe us an explanation," Dana added. I didn't owe them anything. Not after what they did. More pounding. More yelling. They alternated between commands, guilt, and insults. It never occurred to them that I might not open the door because they were wrong. In their heads, I was just being difficult. I leaned back and stayed quiet. They kept at it for a good 10 minutes, maybe more. Eventually, the yelling faded. A car door slammed. Then another. Then silence. I exhaled slowly. The house finally felt like mine again. I checked my phone. More messages, more missed calls, more paragraphs from Dana acting like I betrayed the family. I didn't open a single one. I got up, grabbed some water, and sat back down at the table. The folder was still there. I slid it closer and looked at it again. Not because I needed more information, but because I liked the reminder that I had proof that I wasn't imagining any of this. About half an hour after I'd finished the call and submitted the signed affidavit, my phone buzzed. Email notification. I opened it. Subject: unauthorized transfer reversal, completed. The message said the money had been recredited to my account. Verified. Locked and official. I stared at the screen for a few seconds, letting the confirmation sink in. Then I smiled. Not because it was funny, not because I won. It wasn't about that. It was the smile you get when something finally clicks into place. When you realize you don't have to just take things because other people say you should. When you see clearly that you still have control over your life, even if people try to take it from you. It was the first calm, real smile I'd had in a long time. I put the phone down, closed the folder, and leaned back. Tomorrow would bring more chaos, I knew that. My family wasn't the type to let something go quietly. But tonight, sitting alone in my house with everything back where it belonged, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. I was done letting them walk over me. So I got up early the next morning and drove straight to the bank. No coffee, no breakfast, no messing around. I walked in right when the doors opened. The place was quiet, just the soft sounds of printers and a couple of employees talking behind the counter. A woman at the front desk asked what I needed, and I told her I had to speak to someone about an educational fund account. She led me to a small office where Leanne, the account manager, was already typing something. She looked up. "You must be Leon?" I nodded and took a seat. I slid the folder across her desk. "I need to go over a transfer that happened and make sure nobody besides me has access to this account." She opened the folder, scanned a few pages, and her eyebrows went up almost immediately. "This fund is listed with you as the only beneficiary and sole authorized signer." She flipped another page. "Your parents are nowhere on this account." "I figured as much," I said. She turned to her computer and pulled up the digital version. "The transfer request didn't have your signature. It shouldn't have been allowed at all. Looks like someone here processed it based on the account number and old contact information instead of checking the signer." She shook her head. "That's on us. The reversal is already processed, so the funds are back," she added. I just nodded again. There wasn't anything else to say. "What would you like to do now?" she asked. "Remove every phone number and email except mine," I said. "No notifications go to anyone else." She nodded and typed fast, "Done." "Also," I added, "I need to withdraw 1,000. I'm planning to enroll in an underwater welding certification. That qualifies under the fund rules," she confirmed. "I'll print a check." She printed it, signed it, and handed it over. Just clean. Simple business. Before I stood up, she looked at me like she wanted to say something. "If anyone tries to call the bank pretending to be you, or tries to access this account again, let us know immediately." "I will," I said. I thanked her and walked out with the check in my pocket. The morning air felt better than usual. By the time I got to work, I had already decided not to answer any messages from my family. I didn't need the drama. Welding is loud, focused work. You don't get to be careless. That's one of the reasons I like it. But even the sparks and noise didn't cover the fact that things were probably going to blow up again soon. I didn't expect it would happen that day, though. Around 4 p.m., my supervisor came up to me. "Leon, you've got someone waiting for you outside." I didn't even need to guess. "Let me finish this weld," I said. After a minute, I put my tools away, wiped my hands, and walked out to the parking lot. Mira was standing beside her car, eyes red, hair a mess, pacing back and forth like she was waiting for a court verdict. As soon as she saw me, she stormed over. "Leon, what is wrong with you?" she shouted. "Why would you do this to me?" I didn't answer right away. She wasn't actually asking a question. She was starting a performance. She stepped closer. "Do you even care that I'm going to lose my house?" "The bank is all over me," Julian stressed out. "We're drowning, Leon, and you're just sitting there doing nothing." I kept a straight face. "Your house is not my responsibility. You and Julian made your choices." She blinked, stunned that I didn't soften at all. Then she went straight into victim mode, hands shaking dramatically. "We're family. You're supposed to help. Mom and Dad said you'd understand once you calmed down." "I did calm down," I said. "That's why I'm telling you the truth." She switched again, this time angry. "You're selfish. You've always been selfish. You don't even need that money. You make good enough money welding. Why can't you just help your sister?" I stepped a little closer so she'd hear every word clearly. "Because it's not my job to fix the mess you two created. That fund wasn't community property. It wasn't for the family. It was mine, and you used it without asking." "It wasn't me," she yelled. "Mom and Dad did it. They were trying to save me." "And you didn't tell them to stop," I said. "Don't act innocent." She glared at me, trembling. "We're going to lose everything. You know that, right? Do you want that on your hands?" "No," I said. "I want you to take responsibility. That's different." She tried crying again. It didn't land the same way as before. I had heard it too many times. It sounded like someone who was angry the world didn't bend for her. "Please, Leon," she said, voice cracking. "Just give me some of the money. We'll pay you back." "With what?" I asked. "The mortgage you can't afford? Julian's job he doesn't have? Another loan? Stop pretending repayment is even possible." She went quiet because she knew I wasn't wrong. She tried one last attempt. Threats. "If you don't help, don't expect the family to want anything to do with you anymore." I shrugged. "That's fine." She wasn't expecting that answer. Her face twisted like she just found out gravity stopped working. "I'm done letting you or anyone else decide what I owe," I said. "This is on you. Mira, not me." I stepped past her and headed for my truck. She kept yelling my name, begging, cursing, switching tones like she was flipping radio stations I didn't turn back. I got in, shut the door, and started the engine. Through the window, I could see her standing there, still yelling into the air. I drove off without a second thought. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel guilty for saying no. I felt free. A week after Mira showed up at my job, things went quiet. I figured maybe they were finally giving up and letting the situation settle. I should have known better. One evening, I came home from work and found a bright envelope stuck halfway through my mailbox. Certified mail. My name printed clean across the front. I didn't even have to open it to know who it was from. Inside was a thick packet stamped with legal headers. My parents were suing me. The claim? Conversion of family funds. They were accusing me of wrongfully taking something that belonged to the family. They even tried to make it sound like I stole it from Mira, not the other way around. Anyone else might have panicked. My reaction was different. The anger came fast, but not the chaotic kind. It was controlled and sharp, the same type I felt the night I made the fraud call. My parents weren't just entitled, they were delusional. I sat down, pulled out my phone, and called the only lawyer I knew anything about, Harold, a family dispute attorney, recommended by a guy at work who went through a messy divorce. The guy said Harold didn't play around and didn't care for dramatic clients. Perfect. When he answered, his voice was straightforward and clipped. Harold speaking. Yeah, my name's Leon. I need to talk to someone about a lawsuit my parents filed against me. He paused for maybe half a second. Bring me the documents tomorrow morning. That was it. No fuss. Exactly the type of energy I needed. The next day, I met him at his office. It wasn't fancy. No wall full of degrees or glass furniture. Just a clean room with a desk, a few chairs, and a filing cabinet that looked older than both of us. I handed him the packet. He put on his glasses and read through it without saying a word. The longer he read, the more unimpressed he looked. Finally, he set the papers down. Do they have any idea what they're doing? Probably not, I said. He tapped a line with the back of his pen. These funds are in your name. You're the sole beneficiary. There is no legal footing here. They committed the unauthorized act, not you. I figured as much. Good, he said. Some people in your situation start crying and apologizing for things they didn't do. Your attitude will make this easier. He asked for the bank records, the original fund documents, and a copy of the fraud report. I handed everything over. He flipped through, organizing them into a neat stack. This won't take long, he said. I'll file a response today. Expect a hearing date soon. And he was right. A few weeks later, the court scheduled us in. Still a quick turnaround. Probably because the judge saw the case and already knew where it was going. The morning of the hearing, I walked into the courthouse with Harold. My parents were already inside, sitting on the other side of the room. Raphael's jaw was locked tight, and Dana kept shaking her head like she was the victim of some global injustice. Mira wasn't there, probably too embarrassing for her to sit in a courtroom that existed because she couldn't manage her own bills. They didn't even look at me when I walked in. The judge entered, everyone stood, and the hearing began. It lasted about as long as a coffee order. Harold went first. He presented the documents. My name listed as the only beneficiary, the fund's legal designation, the requirement for my signature, the reversal confirmation, evidence that my parents transferred money without authority. He didn't raise his voice, didn't make a speech, didn't dramatize anything, just clean facts. When he finished, the judge turned to Raphael and Dana. Do you have any justification for accessing an account that legally belonged to your son? Dana jumped in immediately. We needed to help our daughter. He wasn't using the money. We're family. It was the right thing to do. Raphael added, he had plenty. Mira didn't. It makes sense for us to use what we needed. The judge held up a hand. Stop. This isn't about what you think makes sense. It's about legality. Dana opened her mouth again, but the judge cut her off before she got a full word out. There is no basis for your claim. The funds were not communal. They were not yours to move. This case is dismissed. That was it. No long explanation. No questions. Just dismissed. Dana gasped like she'd been slapped. Raphael clenched his fists. They both shot me a look full of pure resentment. When the judge stood to leave, Raphael snapped, You're heartless, Leon. You're not a real son. Dana added, You're disgusting, turning your back on your family after everything we did for you. I didn't respond. I didn't flinch. I didn't even look at them long. They were loud, angry, and embarrassed. But I wasn't giving them more attention than they deserved. Harold leaned toward me. We're done here. We walked out of the courtroom while my parents kept spitting insults behind us. Their voices echoed down the hallway, bouncing off the walls. But none of it stuck. I didn't look back once. By the time we hit the parking lot, the anger was gone. Not because I forgave them, because their power over me had disappeared the moment the judge dismissed their fantasy. Harold shook my hand. If they try anything else, call me. I will, I said. I got into my truck, shut the door, and sat for 1 second, letting the quiet settle, calm, focused, solid. My family wanted chaos. I chose control. After the lawsuit ended, I finally started the underwater welding certification. I'd pulled the money for 6 weeks of heavy training. Early mornings, long days, strict safety drills. No shortcuts, no room for messing around. It was the type of environment I do well in. Straightforward rules, no drama. Some people dropped out because the pressure got to them. I didn't. Every day I showed up ready to work. I wasn't competing with anyone else. I just refused to be the guy who quit something he paid for. When the course ended, the instructors told me I landed near the top of the group. That felt good, but I didn't celebrate. I was already thinking about the next step. Within a month, job offers showed up. Good ones. Offshore maintenance, dive welding tasks, structural repair contracts. Stuff that paid way more than my old shop job. I switched to a better paying local position first, though. I wanted stability while I built the rest of my life. Around the same time, I started my shelving side business. I'd always been good with metalwork, so it wasn't a stretch. I made a few sample units, took some photos, and posted them online. Orders started trickling in. Then they didn't trickle. They came steadily. Restaurants, small offices, people who wanted something custom. I set up a small area in my garage as a workspace. It smelled like steel and sawdust and welding fumes. Better than anything I grew up around. A couple of months into this new routine, something unexpected happened. One afternoon, I was in my workshop finishing the frame on a 3-tier shelf for a cafe downtown. Music was playing quietly in the background. My door was open because the ventilation gets better that way. I was tightening a clamp when someone knocked on the frame of the garage entrance. I looked up and saw an older man, mid to late 70s. Gray hair, clean jacket, steady eyes. He held himself like someone who didn't waste time. "You Leon?" he asked. "I am," I said. He nodded once. "Name's Arlo. I was a friend of your grandfather." That got my attention. My grandfather died when I was 15. And most people who knew him never bothered to stay connected afterward. I set my tools down and stepped toward him. "How'd you find me?" I asked. He pointed behind him. "Saw your name on that flyer you posted at the hardware store. Been in town visiting someone. Figured I'd stop by." He walked in without waiting for an invitation. Not rudely, just comfortably, like someone who felt he had the right to be there. He looked around my workshop, scanning the shelves and metal pieces. "Your grandfather would have liked this," he said. "He always said you had steady hands." I didn't realize how much I needed to hear something like that until he said it. It hit harder than I expected. Arlo leaned against a workbench. I knew him over 40 years. We used to work on engines together. He talked about you more than anyone else. I didn't interrupt. I let him talk. "He told me once," Arlo continued, "that he set aside money for you. Something to help you stay independent. He worried your parents would lean on you too much. Said he wanted you to have something that was yours alone." My chest tightened. Not in a sad way, just in a way that made everything click into place. Arlo looked at me more directly. That money was never supposed to be family money. He made that clear. He said, "Arlo, I'm doing this so the boy can build his own life, not so anyone else can spend it." I nodded slowly. "That's exactly what I thought." He gave a short, satisfied hum. "Then you honored his intentions. He'd be proud you stood your ground." He told me a few more stories. How my grandfather once rebuilt a whole tractor engine on his own because the mechanic shop tried to scam him. How he never let anyone guilt him into bending when he knew he was right. I didn't remember my grandfather being that tough, but hearing it now made more sense. Maybe I got that part from him. After a while, Arlo pushed off the workbench. "I won't keep you. Just wanted you to know the old man saw something in you a long time ago." "Thank you," I said. "Really." He nodded once, turned, and walked back toward the driveway. He didn't shake my hand or give a long goodbye. He just waved over his shoulder and said, "Keep building. It suits you." When he left, I stood in the workshop for a minute, surrounded by the smell of hot metal and the half-finished shelf. Everything felt clearer. I was doing exactly what the man who set up the fund had wanted for me. I went back to the shelf and tightened the final weld. The arc lit up the metal, and for the first time in a long time, I felt steady right down to the bone. My life was mine, and I was finally building it on my own terms. About 3 months passed after Arlo's visit. My life fell into a solid rhythm, welding during the day, filling shelving orders at night, handling my own business without anybody hovering over me. The silence from my family didn't bother me. If anything, it made my life cleaner. Then one afternoon, my phone rang with an unknown number. I almost declined it, but something told me to pick up. "Leon?" The voice was soft, shaky. It was Mira. She didn't sound angry or dramatic. No attitude, no fake crying, just tired. "I know you probably don't want to talk to me," she said, "but I needed to call." I didn't say anything yet. I let her go on. So, we lost the house, she said, a while ago. The bank gave us the final notice and we couldn't stop it. We're in an apartment now. It's small. Nothing works right. Julian's got a job again, but it pays less. I'm working 2 jobs. I barely sleep. Her voice cracked a little, not the forced kind I was used to, but something real. We didn't know how much everything cost, she said. We thought we'd manage somehow. We didn't. And no one came to save us. Not mom, not dad, no one. I stayed quiet, but I didn't hang up. She took a shaky breath. I thought you were being cruel when you said no. But now I get it. We were acting like you existed to fix everything for us. Like we were entitled to your money that wasn't fair. This was the first time she'd ever said anything close to accountability. I'm not calling to ask for money, she added quickly. I'm not asking for anything, actually. I just wanted to apologize. A real apology. Not the kind where I try to make myself look good. I leaned against the workbench. All right, I said. Say it straight. I'm sorry, she said. No hesitation, no excuses behind it. You didn't deserve how we treated you, any of it. And when you finally stood up for yourself, we acted like you were betraying the family. But it was us. We were using you. Her voice dropped. I'm embarrassed. And I should be. I didn't rush to comfort her. I wasn't angry, but I wasn't stepping into big brother therapy mode either. I appreciate you saying that, I said, but I'm not going back to how things used to be. I know, she said. And I don't expect you to. I'm not trying to go back. I'm trying to fix myself first. There was a short pause, but not uncomfortable. Just honest. She spoke again. I used to think mom and dad were right about everything. They always made it sound like you were the cold one. But after the house was gone and things got bad, they weren't there for us either. They said we'd put ourselves in that position. Kind of funny, right? She let out a tired laugh. I guess everyone's a grown-up when it's finally their own problem. I nodded to myself. They raised you to depend on them and expect everyone else to step in. That wasn't your fault when you were a kid. But you're learning now. That counts. I know, she said quietly. And I'm trying. I'm really trying, Leon. We didn't sugarcoat anything. We didn't pretend the past never happened. We talked about the way our parents played favorites, how they leaned on me for everything while telling her the world should accommodate her, how messed up that dynamic was, and how long it took for either of us to see it clearly. After a moment, she asked, Do you think one day we could be, not close, but just normal siblings? Maybe, I said, but it's going to be on new terms. I'm not your fixer. I'm not your backup plan. But I'm not against you either. I get that, she said, and I'm okay with that. I'm not calling to get rescued. I'm calling because you deserved an apology. She didn't cry after that. She didn't beg. She didn't spin the story around. She just breathed on the line like she was finally letting the truth sit between us instead of avoiding it. Thanks for answering, she said softly. You're welcome, I replied. Take care of yourself. I will, she said. And I'm proud of you, I really am. That part caught me off guard, but I didn't react aloud. Good night, Mira. Good night. I hung up. For the first time in years, talking to my sister didn't feel like stepping into a trap. It felt like two adults finally seeing things for what they really were. A few weeks after my call with Mira, life settled into something steady. Work was good, the welding jobs were consistent, and my shelving business was picking up faster than I expected. I stayed in my lane, focused on what I could control. Then, one Saturday afternoon, I stopped by the supermarket after finishing a set of shelf brackets for a local cafe. I grabbed a cart, walked toward the fresh produce section, and heard my name, Leon. I looked up and saw Raphael and Dana standing near the apples. They looked different, older, slower, worn down in a way I hadn't seen before. Their faces didn't have that same sharpness they used to use on me. They just looked tired. For a second, nobody moved. Then my mom took a step forward, cautiously, like I might walk away. Hi, I said, keeping my voice neutral. Dana swallowed. We didn't expect to see you. I live 10 minutes from here, I said. It's a supermarket, not a surprise. My dad let out a breath, not annoyed. More like he'd been holding it for a while. We need to talk, he said quietly. I didn't say no. I didn't say yes. I just waited. They walked closer, slow and hesitant. Raphael's shoulders weren't held high the way they usually were, and Dana wasn't doing her usual routine of acting offended before the conversation even started. We were wrong, my mom said suddenly. Just the sentence. She kept going. We were wrong to take your money, wrong to act like it belonged to all of us, wrong to treat you the way we did. Raphael nodded. We shouldn't have interfered with the fund. Your grandfather made it for you. We knew that we just didn't want to admit it. Dana added, And we shouldn't have babied Mira. We made her believe she didn't have to handle anything on her own, and we put that on you. That wasn't fair. At all. Hearing them say it out loud wasn't something I expected. They didn't sound defensive, they didn't sound angry, just blunt honesty. Raphael rubbed the back of his neck. We treated you like you were supposed to fix everything, like you were a tool we could use when things got hard, and we're sorry. I didn't respond immediately. I wasn't trying to punish them. I just wanted to make sure they weren't walking me into another guilt trap. But they stayed quiet, waiting. I appreciate you saying that, I finally said. But things aren't going back to how they were. We know, my mom said. We're not asking for that. I need time, I told them. And I need respect. If that's not possible, then distance is better for everyone. Raphael nodded again. We understand. There was no crying, no hugging, no dramatic moment. Just three people in a supermarket standing with the truth finally out in the open. It didn't fix years of imbalance, but it did close a wound that had been open for too long. I'm not closing the door completely, I added. But I'm not rushing through it either. That's enough, Dana said quietly. Thank you. We stepped aside to let another shopper pass. They didn't push the conversation any further. After a moment, they said goodbye and walked away slowly. I stayed there for a minute, processing, not in a dramatic, heavy way, just acknowledging that something I thought would never happen actually did. Then I finished my shopping. Over the next few months, my life kept moving forward. The welding job stayed solid, but the shelving business grew faster than I expected. Orders doubled, then tripled. A restaurant hired me to build a full storage system. A small office asked for custom racks. I built everything by hand, one piece at a time. Eventually, I couldn't keep up alone. I hired a part-time assistant, a younger guy who wanted to learn welding and fabrication. He picked things up fast. Having the help let me take on bigger projects. Soon after, I rented a bigger workspace, a small industrial unit with enough room for proper equipment, ventilation, storage, and a clean assembly area. Walking into that place the first time, knowing it was mine, felt like stepping into the life I had been aiming for without realizing it. Clients kept coming. Word spread. People appreciated the quality, the precision, the reliability. No one cared about family drama, lawsuits, or stolen funds. They cared that the work was good, and it was, because I cared about it. I didn't need anyone to praise me or validate me. The results were standing right in front of me. Sturdy shelves, welded beams, completed orders, and a steady business I ran on my terms. I still wasn't close with my parents, but the air was clearer. We exchanged occasional messages, nothing deep, nothing dramatic. Mira and I had checked in twice since her apology. Slow, steady distance, but without hostility. On a late evening, as I shut down the workshop and locked the door behind me, I felt something solid settle in my chest. Just peace. The kind you get when you finally live your life on your own terms. And for the first time in my 27 years, that was enough. Guys, we are so close to hit 100,000 subscribers on this channel. If you are not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. It really helps hit that 100,000 mark. Thanks for making this dream come true.